by quill and charm, my crown-chasing connoisseurs. Welcome back to Long Live the Queen, the podcast that turns royal drama into a decadent dish, and medieval missteps into meme-worthy moments. You've entered the scandal chamber, Queen's Court gossip, where the gossip is older than your Nana's relics and twice as cursed. Today, we're flipping the script. Normally, we serve the queens, but sometimes the kings give us such ridiculous drama we can't look away. So buckle your velvet boots, because today we're diving into Edward II of England, a king so scandalous, so controversial, he left England gagging and chroniclers clutching their quills. Is he a tragic misfit king crushed by toxic nobles, or a reckless ruler who loved his favorites more than his kingdom? Was he deposed by a jilted wife, or by centuries of bad PR? And yes, we will talk about the red-hot poker. So grab your mead, your morning veil, and maybe a fire extinguisher. It's about to get messy. Let's rewind to 1307. Edward II, son of legendary Edward I, Mr. Hammer of the Scots himself, is crowned king. Big shoes to fill. And Edward's walking in them with a suspicious limp. From day one, Edward's reign is weird. He skips his coronation banquet to hang out with a certain Piers Gaveston, a low-born Gascon knight with bedroom eyes and a wardrobe that screams medieval influencer. The nobles, not amused. Some chroniclers hint that Edward and Gaveston weren't just close. They were close, as in sharing jewels, private chambers, and possibly more. One chronicler even described Edward as filling Gaveston with such intimacy that it seemed no one else mattered. Gird your loins, ladies. And the gifts, titles, lands, money. Edward showers Gaveston with more bling than a royal wrapper. It's giving sugar daddy. It's giving codependent. And the barons are not here for it. By 1312, the situation boils over. The barons capture Gaveston and, surprise, execute him in the woods. Brutal. Edward? Devastated. England? Unimpressed. Savage. Enter Isabella of France, our she-wolf, a queen in training and already sick of her husband's favoritism. Married off at 12, Isabella quickly learns that being a queen doesn't always mean being loved. Edward gives her a wedding ring, then turns around and hands her jewels, literally intended for her, to his favorites. But the drama doesn't end with Gaveston. Oh no. After Gaveston's death, enter the Despensers. Hugh Despenser the Younger becomes Edward's new obsession, and he makes Gaveston look like a chivalrous Boy Scout. The Despensers rule the court like tyrants. They confiscate land, bankrupt nobles, and make enemies faster than a peasant revolt. Isabella? Marginalized, mistreated, and allegedly robbed of her income. One letter claims she was reduced to selling her own jewelry just to pay her staff. The Queen of England pawned her pearls. The audacity! Edward isn't just scandalous in bed. He's a disaster on the battlefield. He loses to the Scots at Bannockburn in 1314, a humiliation so bad the English countryside practically wept. Chroniclers painted him as weak, vacillating, obsessed with pleasure instead of kingship. Even his hobbies were questionable. Supposedly, he loved rowing boats, digging ditches, and hanging with craftsmen instead of, being the king. One chronicler called him a king who preferred the company of rustics and rowdies. Don't threaten me with a good time. Meanwhile, the Despensers are running wild, executing rivals, crushing barons, and turning England into a medieval mafia state. The nobles plot rebellion, and who's their surprise ally? Isabella. Isabella flees to France under the pretense of diplomacy. But she's done. Once there, she shacks up with Roger Mortimer, a rebel lord turned royal side piece, and they plan the ultimate heist, the English crown. In 1326, Isabella and Mortimer invade. Edward and the Despensers panic. The Despensers are captured and executed with medieval flair. Hugh Despenser the Younger, hanged, drawn, quartered, and reportedly had his genitals removed before his execution. That's not justice, that's vengeance with glitter. Edward is captured and forced to abdicate in favor of his teenage son, Edward III, and here's where it gets wild. Edward is imprisoned in Berkeley Castle, and in 1327 he dies. But how? Official story? Natural causes. Unofficial story? A red-hot poker shoved up his you-know-where. Yeah, that one. You've heard it, you've Googled it. And historians agree it's probably propaganda. But that hasn't stopped the rumor from becoming medieval canon. Supposedly, it was done to leave no visible wounds, a subtle way to eliminate a deposed king without a trace. Except, if you're trying to keep it quiet, maybe don't use the world's most horrific murder method. Others claim Edward may have escaped and lived as a hermit in Europe. One document even claims he lived out his days in Italy, writing poetry and sipping wine like a royal fugitive. Is it true? Probably not, but it slaps. So what's the real story? Edward II was possibly queer, definitely unpopular, and tragically mismatched with his times. He loved deeply, ruled poorly, and provoked the wrath of a queen who wouldn't be sidelined. Some see him as a victim of nobles, of prejudice, of his own heart. Others see him as a weak ruler who got exactly what he deserved. Even today, scholars argue, was Edward just a soft king in a brutal world? Or was he a revolutionary, someone trying to live authentically in an age that demanded masks? One thing for sure, he left a trail of rumors, lovers, and bloodied parchment long after his crown fell. Whether Edward II was a tragic romantic or a political disaster, or just a king in the wrong century, his story's unforgettable. From scandalous favorites to mysterious deaths, he redefined royal chaos. So next time someone tells you that history is boring, hand them Edward II. Was Edward II murdered or merely misunderstood? Was Gaveston his true love or just his Achilles heel? And what's the deal with that poker story? Fact, fiction, or medieval fan fiction? You can share your juiciest royal gossip at longlivethequeenpodcast@gmail.com or slide into my DMs on Facebook or Instagram at longlivethequeenpodcast. Or join the Royal Court at Patreon for extended episodes and bonus content. Until next time, stay sharp, stay scandalous, and stay crowned.